Excuse me. Sorry, everybody. I've been a little sick. Hey, everybody. It's Aaliyah. I am here again with Making Money Moves for the second episode. Hopefully, you all tuned in to the first one. If not, the links will be up on iTunes and they will be off my website, so you will be able to see all of the episodes. So today, last week we interviewed Corey, and she talks about junk bonds at the end with Netflix. So today I'm going to give you a little bit about the junk bonds before we get into our next moneymaker and our next guest for today. So junk bonds, she talked about the junk bonds with Netflix. I do have a link up so you all can see what they are or see what she was actually referring to when it comes to Netflix. If you want the article, just let me, just let me know, and then I will send it to you. Or I'll put it up on my page so you all will be able to see it. But junk bonds, okay? Let's talk about what junk bonds actually are. So junk bonds are a high yield, high risk security, typically issued by companies that are trying to raise capital. So if you are not afraid of, jumping in and putting up some money to make a high return, a junk bond is for you. The only difference with junk bonds is you really need to watch the market or watch the investors, because if investors start pulling out, then that means that the junk bonds are not doing well and you are about to lose some money. So it's not like if I put some money in and you are going to, it might do this, it might do that. It's either going to give you a rising star or you're going to fall. Okay? Those are the only options. But it is with Netflix, because Netflix is really booming right now. If you are watching the stock markets or watching what they have been doing over time, they are really generating a lot of money. So getting a junk bond with Netflix is actually a good thing. If you have the money to put in, a little or a lot, depending on how much of your investment you would like back, Netflix is one of the ways to go when it comes to that. Amazon, you might want to look into Amazon as well. Amazon is doing a lot. They are taking over a lot. So they also are a good way to make some money as well if you are looking into those. We will give you another money tip at the end of the show about something that we've looked at or something we might be doing, and where our money is going and how we are making different money with making money and different moves that we're doing. So we'll let you know that at the end of the show, give you another tip. If you have any questions about Netflix or junk bonds or anything, let me know. Let's put the questions on Facebook, or I am also live on Instagram. So you also can put the questions in on Instagram. And if I, see them, then I'll go ahead and answer the questions. And if you have any questions for my guest, as I'm about to introduce her, then you can ask the questions for her. We'll answer the questions as they come in, or I will answer the questions next week if we don't see them. Okay. Now, let's get into our next money maker. Our next guest is attorney Kyra Coffey. She is a great friend of mine, but she is also a fabulous attorney. She does business law, is her concentration. So she does formations of business. She does trademarks. She can do patents. She does anything that basically relates to business. Kyra is the person to do it. She probably does some other things that I haven't mentioned, but she will explain everything that she does to you. We'll also talk about, different ways that Kyra has made money with and without being outside of attorney things, and then maybe a little bit of her story and where she's from. She is from Chicago, so all my Chicagoans that are in Houston now, she's been here a while, so she's kind of transformed over, but she's always rep Chicago. And she did go to Whitney Young. She is very smart. You have to be very smart to get into Whitney. You have to test in. So she has been bright since she was little. Outside of being an athlete, she ran track at DePaul. So if anybody, needs a workout, she can help you out. Okay, so let's get into Kyra. Hello,
Hey,
Kyra.
everybody.
Welcome.
Hey, Aaliyah. Thank you for having me on today. I'm glad to be here. Talk about making some money moves from a legal perspective, business perspective. I am an attorney based here in Houston, Texas. I've been practicing for about 4 years now. And as you mentioned, my focus is in business, whether that's contracts, negotiations, just making sure that your business is protected with policies and things like that if you have employees, to your strategies from starting your business and the whole gamut from there. So I know we're going to go from there, talk about some family stuff, which I have done some cases as well in that arena. But my focus and my passion is in business.
Okay. Well, first, before we get into that, let's talk about you. So let's talk about, how did you know, because we have a lot of people that do different things, that want to dabble in different things, but how did you know that you wanted to be an attorney? Kind of give us the backstory, because we see you on Instagram, we see you traveling, we see that, you like
the fun side of it.
We see the fun. We don't see the actual work part of it. So give us a little history of how you got started, and then like what happened when going into the process of how you got to where you are.
Okay. So as you mentioned, I'm from Chicago, from the South Side, and I started working at an early age. And when I went to college, I was initially studying business and marketing, and so it was, do I want to continue on that route? Or my minor was in sociology, so I did have an interest in just the people and justice and things like that. So I decided to go the route of law because, talking about money, I saw it as the ultimate hustle degree, just being honest, and that there's always going to be a need for lawyers. And if you need to strike out on your own to supplement income or whatever, you can make that happen. So that's kind of, in a nutshell, what prompted me to go the legal route.
Business, who would have known? So you know how we talked about that last week, how I started out teaching math and I ended up doing taxes and finances, and how now you literally started out in business,
right,
and then sociology, and she's a lawyer. So obviously you had an unconventional way of getting to becoming a lawyer, not political justice, and then law school. It was business, and then it was sociology, and now
that's one of the things I like about or one of the things that adds to the legal industry is that you don't have to have like a political science or a traditional legal undergrad study in order to go to law school. And that's what kind of adds to the diversity of the industry, because people come with these different backgrounds and perspectives, and then kind of put your legal fine-tuning on it. So,
interesting. Things you never know about people. Things you never know. Okay, so business law and contracts. So let's talk about contracts. A lot of people, for some reason, and I watch a lot of these judge shows on my off times, people don't think that a verbal contract is really a contract and it will hold up in court. Or if we have a contract that is written and then it gets amended later, does the amendment stand up if we do not have the amendment in writing? So give us a little information about verbal contracts when it comes to what we have to do, and then written contracts if you amend it and it's not in writing, or what you need to actually do in that process if someone has to go.
Okay, so a contract is very basic. All you need is offer, acceptance, and consideration. So I say, hey, you want this water? You say yes. I say, give me $1. We have a contract right there. Okay. In essence, it's very basic. So you can make an oral agreement all the time. The only thing with having an oral contract is determining if it's going to stand up in court, if there does become an issue.
Okay.
And so the issue there is, or the problem therein lies with, what evidence do you have to support what the agreement was? Because you're going to go to court, it's going to be a he say, she say. So you'll oftentimes have to bring in circumstantial evidence. So you'll have to show, okay, do you have text messages? Do you have emails? Do you have something else, other witnesses that can support either your statement or the other person's statement? But oral agreements are always hard to prove, just because there's no formal, evidence of what we actually agreed to. We can say, hey, I gave you this water and I told you give me $5, and you're like, wait, no, you only told me $1. Now it's a he say, she say, and who is the judge to believe? Okay. Whereas if it's in writing, we have it in black and white as to what the actual agreement was. And then you mentioned amendments and modifications to contracts. I like to always put in my contracts that only written and equally signed or executed contracts are ones that will stand up in court. Like, this contract cannot be modified except by writing and agreed to by both parties.
Okay. Let's make sure everybody understood that. So, in layman's terms, basically, whenever she does contracts, in the contract, it has to say, in order for us to change anything in the contract, it has to be in writing. And if it's not in writing, it's not valid.
Exactly. Just because sometimes you'll have conversations, and a lot of people in business do it, or emails, and you'll say, okay, can you do this? And you'll say yes, but you didn't really hash out all the details to it. So if you were to say that, hey, well, you agreed to it in email, it's like, yeah, but we didn't really hash out all the details, and our contract says that really wasn't even a formal change anyway because it wasn't in a formal modification. So just make sure, seek an attorney if you do have a contract. I do have clients who come in after the fact, and it's always much harder and more costly to the person to try to fix it after the fact, whereas if you would have just done it right in the first place, it's easy peasy from there.
Okay. All right. Seek an attorney. Okay, so let's get into wills and estates, because she does also do estate planning, wills, and on the tax side of a lot of that, I am on the tax side of wills or things that happen when someone dies and you have to get your taxes done, and where the money goes and who gets it. And if you're not married and you're common law, does common law really exist in Texas? Let's talk about it, because I have clients that have been together 20 years or been together 15 years, and they're not getting married, and they live together. But, if something, I tell people all the time, if something happens, you need to at least have some type of something,
right? Because
Texas is different when it comes to law. So let's first talk about common law before we get into, then I can get into the financial side for taxes. We can talk so we can relate it. So common law, does common law marriage exist in, do they recognize it in Texas?
So they do. And it's more of, you will have to go to court to prove it up, but like you mentioned, people living together, cohabitation is definitely one of the standards that you have to prove.
Okay.
You also have to have held out as husband and wife. So they had to have said at some point to other people, yes, this is my wife. Even though they were not formally married, still hold out to others as saying, this is my wife or this is my husband. If you live together for forever and you always still just say boyfriend and girlfriend, then or even fiance, it's still not going to be recognized as ever being a common law marriage. So you do have to say, with friends or family or others, because others will not be called in to testify. Hey, were they married? Did you ever hear them say that they were, husband and wife and things like that? So that's definitely one of the factors that people often don't do because they're not in fact married, but that can break, or make whether that common law marriage stands in court.
So with that, so on the tax side of that, if you come in with someone and let's say you all have been together all this time, you've never mentioned husband and wife, and you all do not, and you guys legally cannot file taxes together. You can't come in and you as the spouse, but you're not you are the, I don't know, girlfriend or boyfriend. You can't bring in the tax information to get this person's taxes prepared because you are nothing to this person. Basically, you're a really good friend. I know that kind of sounds bad, but that's basically what you are. Yeah. So legally on my side, we can't do anything for you in order to get their tax money, to get anything, basically, even when it comes to insurance and stuff. What if your name is on the beneficiary stuff? We've been together all this time. I'm the beneficiary of all the money and stuff that you have coming in. Right. But my kids want to attest. Your kids want to attest it because we're not legally married. So what happens then? If I have a will and your name is on, and you're stating in the will that you get this, and that, what's the difference? Or what happens with the will versus not having one versus a beneficiary?
So a beneficiary and those type of life insurance policies and things like that, they're not technically covered under your will because that is a separate contract that you have outside of your estate. It's part of your estate, but you specifically list in there who you want that beneficiary to be. It can be your neighbor, it can be your significant other, it can be a complete stranger.
Okay.
Once you sign that person on there, it cannot be contested. It is what it is.
Okay.
The only way somebody could possibly try to contest it is if they were to say you weren't in your right state of mind at the time. But typically you sign that contract, it is what it is. Now on the will side, that covers all of your other estates such as your home, cars, bank accounts, things like assets, things like that. And so if you do have a will, great. Because you kind of already lay out who you want to have what and where you want your assets to be distributed to.
Okay.
Now, the only way someone can contest that, whether it be like someone's children who say, hey, she shouldn't get anything. If it's in the will, it's in the will. Again, unless you can say that this person was under duress or they were suffering from dementia or something that didn't have them in the right state of mind, which is something that happens with elderly if they wait until they're much older to do a will.
Okay.
But if on the other side, if you don't have a will, that's where it gets very ugly. If you don't have a will, you have a common law marriage. Ooh, God bless you. Only because now those children can argue and say, hey, we're his rightful heirs and she was just a girlfriend and she shouldn't get anything. And if her name isn't on, any property or anything like that, she really doesn't, or he, whoever that significant other is, won't get anything, and those children will have rights to all of the assets to whoever, passed. And the thing is, like you mentioned, common law only comes into effect, or it's only argued before court after someone passes. So someone like trying to bring you taxes and things like that for someone else and say, oh, well, that's my common law husband or my common law wife. Yeah, y'all are just saying that you didn't go to court to actually get it, formalized that it was a common law marriage. Just saying it's common law is not legitimately common law marriage.
So you have to go get a piece of paper that says we are common law. Oh,
just to say, oh, I'm common. Like, how do you I could no? You're just saying something. You have to have it formalized by the court. You have to have it recognized by the court in order for it to have any legal standing. Just to say that we're under a common law marriage doesn't hold any merit. That's just like if I were to say, I could say anything. I could tell you, hey, we're common law marriage. You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, who had any formal bearing over that? Yeah. So you definitely have to have that, formalized by the court.
Oh my God. Never knew that. Oh, we are learning so much today. That is all of my couples that have been in a relationship all of this time, and you guys have been, and kids don't like you, or somebody's mother doesn't like you, and something is going on. I would advise that you all either go to court and get some type of paperwork that says we're common law, go to the courthouse, get married to make sure everything is okay. Call Kyra to get a will done to make sure that
and
is
the only thing that you would go to so you can go to the court today and just get a formal marriage, going forward. However, if you have assets together that maybe both of your names are not on that you want to include under that marriage, then you do want to go to court to get a common law marriage and backdate it to whenever you guys say that you were somewhat married. But don't even get in that situation. If you are starting to commingle assets and things like that and you say, hey, are we going to be married or not, just go get married and don't even mess with the common law marriage because it's murky waters. It's not very easy to just tread through.
Oh, my gosh. We learn so much in these times.
Making money moves.
You never really know this. Okay, so let's talk about the benefits of a will and then, or the benefits of a will. Let's do the benefits of a trust.
Okay.
Or first, let's talk about what a will is and what a trust is, because some people, I think a living trust, some people don't know the difference between a will and a trust, or you feel that you don't make enough money to have one or the other, or you don't have anything to put in there. So we'll talk. So let's get into that so people understand, regardless if you're rich or poor. Okay, if you're middle class, you live in paycheck to paycheck, it doesn't make a difference. But to have something set up for just in case is always, the best situation. It's kind of like car insurance. You get car insurance just because you think something may happen, just in case something happens. You don't plan on getting hit by a semi. You don't plan on getting somebody running you off the road. But just in case those things happen, you do have something set up for that to happen. So a will or a trust or something in writing is basically the same thing to me. Just in case something happens, we are covered. So let's talk about what a trust is.
So a trust is different from a will, which is also known as the last will and testament. And pretty much a trust covers your assets while you are living. So you can have something in a trust and you can give to it and you can put into it while you're still here, whereas a will doesn't distribute your assets until once you've passed on. So you can have a trust for, a lot of people do trust for their children, for their grandchildren, and it will just hold assets that they're able to put into and build and grow while they're still living, instead of waiting until they're deceased to then have this asset that can go on to potential heirs or whoever they want it to go on to. So that kind of brings me to what a will is, which covers how you want your assets to be distributed once you are in fact deceased and pass on. So that kind of covers the difference. A lot of people, one of the things we talked about before the show that you mentioned is what's one of the myths, or what's a common myth that people think about wills, and it's that, like you just said, if you're poor or I don't have a lot of assets, then I don't need one.
Right.
I don't care if you have 2 shoestrings. I mean, you can do a very simple will, but if you have something and you have family or you have heirs, or even if you don't, you still want to control and govern how that is distributed, because if you don't, then the government will, and often they do so in a way that is contrary to how you personally wanted it to go, and then family gets to fighting, and it always gets very ugly. So yeah.
Okay. So wills, a trust, and estate planning.
So that's a good point, because a lot of people only think of wills and trusts when it comes to estate planning, but they don't think about their personal being. And an estate plan will cover everything from healthcare directives, as far as, like, let's say you become disabled, then who would you want to care for you as your personal guardian, and who would you want to care for your estate as your estate guardian? That's another thing. And let's say you're on life support. What type of decisions do you want to be made? Do you want them to pull the plug? Do you want them to not pull the plug? So I often tell people to get a comprehensive estate plan. And if you have children, who do you want to be the guardian over your children, and then your children's estate to handle their finances and things like that. So I often tell people, don't just think short-sighted and think about your finances only, but think about your life, your children's lives, and how you will want that to be handled in the event that you are injured, become handicapped, or in fact, do pass, unfortunately. So just things to think about, because people only think, I just need a will. And I'm like, it's a little bit more than that. So HIPAA authorizations, who do you want to have access to? Your medical records, who do you want making medical decisions on your behalf? All that kind of stuff. Okay.
And then on the financial side of that, for taxes, you do have estate tax that you have to file. There are gift taxes you have to file. So let's say you have a grandparent that is going to pass, and you are the person that might be over their estate. There are taxes that have to be paid, the different forms that have to be filed with that. We also do the taxes for all of that too, just in case you all need some taxes done for some estates. But you do have that as well, which is another big part of tax, which is another part for taxes. Far as just being able, just making sure information about giving so much money away that is paid on the backside, so that the people don't have, so that whoever you give it to, they don't have to pay it.
Right.
Versus you not paying taxes and then giving this to somebody and then they're having to pay the taxes on it.
And that's a good point, because even like with people's estates, there are certain fees that may come along with that. So if you choose someone to be over your estate, then you need to make sure that they can cover any type of financial They can recover it from the estate, but initially there may be some fees, attorney fees, or things like that. So just make sure that it's someone who can, in fact, cover any upfront expenses that may come along. Like if you choose someone to be your guardian or this, that, and the other, communicate with them and let them know so that they're willingly want to take on that responsibility, because it does come with some financial, considerations.
Yes. So today, we just need to make sure that we that you have some type of plan. We know that, no one wants to die, but something will happen, just something will happen. So we definitely need to make sure that you have certain things in place that will help you and help others, in the future. Just because planning different things when you're already grieving is hard enough, but to do it with you already have things in place makes things a lot easier.
Yes.
To do. So hopefully that is one of the things that you all will take away from today, at least, is to have a plan of what you need to do from one side, for the financial side of what you need to do when it comes to taxes and finances on where you should move stuff, to the other side of getting the plan together, talking to an attorney, having someone be able to at least explain some things to you that you need to have done, and then you'll be able to move forward and know what you need to do by then. All right, but we are going to we have, at the end of each show, we will give you a money tip, and then with that money tip we will bring it back to you when we have, depending on how many questions we get, or explain what it is that you probably, that we've been looking at, that we have maybe invested in, or we have talked to some other people that they are invested in, from stocks to bonds to CDs to wherever people have been putting different monies for different things. Everyone is trying to make money moves, and everyone is trying to get to level up, basically. So we are going to try to give you a little jewel of how we can do that. So Kyra, do you have a money tip for us today? Something that you have been looking at, or something that you're interested in, something that you have invested some money in, something you're going to invest some money in, or some tip that you may have?
My money tip would be let's see, something that I've personally struggled with. And just what this show is about, making your money work for you and making smart and strategic decisions for your money. Think about, your short-term goals, but also think about your long-term goals in a holistic point of view, and get a bird's eye view of what you want your lifestyle to look like. And don't limit yourself on where you are now, but kind of set those seeds up now to grow, so that 5 years from now you're able to hit certain goals and marks that you want to. So make smart moves, like listen to Making Money Moves and other type of resources, so that you are educated on what opportunities that are really out there to grow your money for you.
Okay. All right. And then this week, I'm giving you a money tip. We are going to talk about Ethereum and this Bitcoin, and how Ethereum is a rival right now for cryptocurrency. I know a lot of people have talked about cryptocurrency. A lot of people have invested in. A lot of people got money when it came to Bitcoin, and how Ethereum is kind of taking over. How it's one of those things that if you haven't looked at, you might need to look into it. I have put money into it, and I am very cheap. For those that know me, okay, I will hold on to $1. I know it might not seem like that all the time, but I do.
You're just very good with making it stretch out for you.
Yes, I do. Sweet. Yes, okay. I am. Oh, Lord. Anyway. So, Ethereum is a rival. It does do a little more than what Bitcoin has been doing. I won't give all the secrets away, because we will bring it up next week. We will talk about it at the beginning of the show next week. But that is something that you might want to look into if you haven't been looking into cryptocurrency. There are a few different ones that are coming up that are rivals, that are, if you just let some money sit and don't look at it, and it will generate some money for you, and it will bring in some income that that you want, basically. So you might be able to retire a little earlier. Sit back and let some money let it make money for you. So that is something we'll talk about. That is something that I'm also looking at if anyone has any questions.
It's definitely growing. I saw an actual Bitcoin like ATM yesterday, and I was like, whoa, so this is really like, this is not just a trend that was coming in and out. It's definitely here to possibly be for the long run and have a serious impact on our currency. So
yeah, our currency, I feel like is going to change. It is going to definitely be, everything is going to change. So we're not even going to need these different things. It's kind of like a trading here or there. And right now it's not regulated. Just give you that little tidbit. It's not regulated by the IRS. Bitcoin, they did regulate Bitcoin this year. That is something that they put out that does have to be taxed, and you do have to put that on your taxes. This year for Bitcoin, they did put that out there. A lot of people don't know that, but we are going to wrap up the show. We're running out of time, so I will be back with you next week with a new moneymaker. We are going to thank Kyra, our attorney, Kyra Coffee, for coming in today. And if you have any questions about anything that we have talked about today, or if you need to get in contact with one of us, do not hesitate. And thank you for tuning in again today. I know my voice sounds a little crazy. I've been sick. So I'm trying not to sound like Alan. I'm trying to sound like Aaliyah. So thank you. And we will see you guys next week.